Time now for the voice of the land on the Big Play Network with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Always Positive Jay.
Good Saturday afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Voice of the Land. As the big voice guy said at the top, I am Kevin Arnold. I am joined by no one right now. Maybe we'll have a special guest host as Always Positive Jay is on assignment working on his house. He just got a new house, so he's working on that. I guess the last owners of it did not leave it in the greatest of shape, so he's got a little bit of work to do before him and his fiance can move into the house. But I am joined somewhere around here by our producer extraordinaire, not behind any proverbial glass today, just out in the essence of Bedford, Ohio. It is our producer extraordinaire, Peter Tellep, or as we like to call him, Audio. What Jarvis was to Iron Man, Audio is to the Voice of the Land. Peter, how's it going, man? It's a beautiful day outside.
It is a beautiful day. It's the weather's held out. You know, there was some talk about some rain, and luckily it's held out. And just enjoying the festivities down here in historic downtown Bedford.
Yeah, so we are in historic Bedford, Ohio, in downtown Bedford, kind of in the square under the pavilion this afternoon for Elmer Flick Days. This is day 2 of Elmer Flick Days. Kind of a brief pause as we are kind of the entertainment. We were the scheduled entertainment for this point of Elmer Flick Days on day 2 of it. So we are out here in Bedford. Come on out. There's going to be some music later. They have some drinks and everything for everybody. And the Bedford Historical Museum, which is just off to my left, your right, as you're looking through the camera. They are still open right now, but I believe they are going to be closing up here soon. But a great, got a chance to go in there before the show started, and a great display and information put out about Elmer Flick and his statues over there. We're going to be joined by one of the fellow owners, operators of LPV Productions, who is one of our partners, Jim Wagner, here in the second segment to kind of talk about that, as he is kind of he is the organizer, he is the crew, as we kind of found out being out here for Elmer Flick Days. So we'll get some more information on that very historical event being celebrated out here today. And a former Cleveland Spider, Cleveland Indian, I believe, is how you would say that, because even though Cleveland Spider is what he was when he was playing for Cleveland.
I think Jim was saying it wasn't a Spider, but we'll get into all that in the second segment, because there's a lot of people, you know, around the area have no idea who Elmer Flick is, and it's really a kind of a shame, because it's a pretty unique, I think, piece of history. Yeah, and I've said it about 10 times since we started the show already, and I'm sure everybody is just kind of glazing over all of them. So, and if you see me looking this way, I'm just pretending like I'm looking at someone, even though you can still hear Audio's voice. But we are part of the Big Play Network and brought to you by Vector Technical. They'll get the right person in the right job the first time. I am just making sure, getting our social media stuff taken care of as well, sharing the show so that people can tune in and get this kind of enjoy a Saturday edition of the Voice of the Land. I'm sure it'll be on replay throughout the weekend and throughout the week. But it is a baseball-themed day here in Bedford, and what better way to start than Audio, than with talking about our own night together out at somehow you made it out to a baseball game last night. Yes.
But
no pictures, though.
Yes. Those that have never seen the show before, you're watching for the first time, Peter is a real person, but it doesn't feel like it because he never wants to be on camera, and he has positioned the cameras again today in just a way that it would only show me, and if we had a co-host or once we have Jim come on, but it will not show him. I could always have Jim turn the camera towards him. We won't do that today. We'll save it for another day to get Peter's actual face on camera. But we were out at the Guardians game last night. Guardians are up 8-0 already. If I missed any other runs, because Jose Ramirez accounting for 5 of those 8 runs already today, with a 3-run home run in the first, a 2-run home run in the second. I think they've already pushed the starting pitcher for the Detroit Tigers to the showers. After that terrible series in Detroit where they got swept in those 4 games, and that involved another makeup game too, Peter. Yeah, that was I think Francona said that they just played bad ball. And they did, because it's really been a long time since you've looked at Detroit as being a formidable opponent.
in baseball. But then again, I think the Guardians/Indians, they do have a habit of playing down to their opponents, and I think there have been many times when Kansas City would be in the basement, we'd go into Kansas City and get swept, and that was always something that was very, very frustrating.
And there were years where Detroit had our number, but that's because Detroit was in a much better position than they are now.
Yeah, there was a point where Detroit really put a lot of money into their payroll, into their lineup, and made a run for it, and they were formidable. But I think typically, at least I always feel that Detroit, Kansas City, those are games that this club should pretty much always win.
They should always win. And when you're going to be playing a bunch of games going into the All-Star break and coming out of the All-Star break against the AL Central, because this is the last year, Peter, of this 18-19 game series against your division opponents. Now, next year, that's where it's supposed to take over, this new collective bargaining agreement where you're going to get the chance to play every team in the majors, so that lessens the amount of time that you have to play your own division. We'll talk about that in the future. That may help or hurt based on how the Central's been. It helps to play these teams a bunch of times as long as you win them. So being out there last night, Guardians got off to a great start. They scored 3 runs in the first inning. You have Zach Plesac on the hill, just like you got Quantrill on the hill today. These are 2 guys that are going to have to pick up their performance, and maybe an offensive outburst where the Guardians are almost leaving it, I don't want to say without a chance for Detroit to come back, because there's always a chance. We talked about
we talked about that game. What was it? Late '90s, I think, about the Seattle game, and we found out that I'm trying to remember the specifics. We were kind of talking about it last night, but the Indians were down like
12 runs
late in the game, and they came back and won that game in extra innings. And we found out that we were both actually at that game, about 20 some years ago.
You were in the bleachers.
I was in the bleachers with my girlfriend at the time, and my friends all gave up and left because they were like, they're not going to come back. And I didn't know if they were or not, but I want to stick around and see what happened, because it's otherwise I would have missed a spectacular game.
And that's kind of how I am too. Like I stay to the end, especially because don't have the kind of money to go to every single game. Don't have season ticket type money or season ticket package type money to any of the teams here in Cleveland. But I try to stay to the end to get my money's worth, but also because you never know. You never know what you're going to get a chance to see when you go out to a game. So, unfortunately, we did leave in the 7th inning, but I was a much younger lad at that time.
You probably didn't have much of a choice.
I did not have much of a choice. My ride was going to lead me there, and I was nowhere close to getting my own license at that time of that game. But, the seats were a little bit – they were different than – we were up top where kind of like those storage crates are now. I was kind of pointing out to you because we were almost diagonal to that down the third base line yesterday, right in the corner. And, Grandpa, my dad, they were both out there, and Grandpa his back was starting to tighten up in those chairs and needed to go home. They're down 12 runs, so you felt okay about that. Then you listen to Tom Hamilton call the game on your way home, and it's like, oh, whoa, we're kind of missing something here. So stay up much later than my bedtime would say at that time to see the end, but. So you never know what kind of history or spectacular plays you're going to see. So a lot of people like to stick it out for those games. And last night was one of those where we thought maybe Plesac was going to settle in a little bit. 4th inning, he has a bunch of trouble. And we were just kind of mentioning it. Quantrill, Plesac, these are the type of guys that when the offense scores early, even though you want to be more consistent throughout the game, those are the type of guys that can shut it down pretty quickly, and you feel comfortable. If you get 3 or 4 runs in the first inning, you feel pretty comfortable flying through to the 9th inning.
Exactly, and I think one of the we were talking to some of the guys behind us, and I don't follow the Plesac's stats that well, but they were saying he doesn't get run support, and it's like, oh, we got 3 runs in the first inning, so you're expected him to at least. He seemed like he had settled in. He seemed like he was doing well, and then all of a sudden it just kind of seemed like the wheels kind of fell off there.
You get one out in the fourth, and then he couldn't get outs, and all of a sudden you look up at the scoreboard, and we had Jana and I had gone to go get some food.
You guys left, and all of a sudden it's tied game.
I mean, if you want to put that on us, that's totally fine. I mean, and I was gonna joke around about that last night, but it's 5-3. And you're thinking, okay, now this team is really inconsistent. You're winning a game, you're losing a game. You're winning a game, you're losing a game. Against teams that, as young and as inexperienced as the Guardians are this year, they should be able to beat. And you're going to have to solidify this win, or at least win one of these next two games before the All-Star break, to solidify yourself being above 500. This young team is probably going to feel much better looking at the record, the standing, just past the halfway point of the season, about 5 or 6 games past it. Once tomorrow's game is all said and done, it's going to feel a lot better with the struggles they had over the last couple weeks, seeing, okay, we're a couple games above 500. We're still kind of challenging for that wild card spot. If we can get on another run as we get closer to the end of the season and play our best baseball, like we did when we were making a run for the top of the AL Central just 2-3 weeks ago, they got to feel much better and much more confident about playing on that stage.
Yeah, we had that great road trip, and then we kind of just, we had that series that we went like 1 for 6.
Yeah.
And it really just, it's like, when we talked about this before too, was the kind of it's almost like Jekyll and Hyde, right? It's this hot, cold. It's like they're either playing really well or they're not, or they're not.
Mm.
And there seems to be a lot of inconsistency in their play. Last night was great. They chipped their way back in and ended up winning the game. It was exciting. It was great. Took Jacob to the game, and he had a great time. Got him some new Guardians gear, because I still don't have any Guardians gear. So I know you got some new swag last night.
I got some new Guardians gear last night. I mean, I've been able to obtain some Guardians gear from just kind of, I guess, the perks of working where I do.
Yeah.
But more so, like, I always wait my turn, and if no one else wants it, like, I'm gonna, I snagged up a couple. It was just like the promotional giveaway jerseys that they had dropped off some to the office, and there was a bunch of different bags of them. The people that wanted them took them, and there was still some available. So took one bag to share for the wife and I. But last night I've been getting into bucket hats more. Don't know why, but I just like the way they feel, like the way they fit on my head, because I can't find like hats like this, like ball caps like the one I'm wearing, supporting the Voice of the Land. Of course, go to voiceoftheland.com, find our link for our shop, and you can find one of these hats as well. But these are the type of hats I like to wear. I can't find ones that fit my head right. Like the strap never sits right. I found one Cavs hat that the snapback strap on the back of the head, I got it to a point where there was like 2 open slots or whatever, and it fit my head perfectly. And I thought, okay, that's where my head is for all snapbacks.
Yeah, it's not.
It is not. Most other ones, it's the back piece, the open part you can see my forehead in is wide open, and I don't know, it just doesn't sit on my head right. So bucket hats have become my thing.
I was actually looking for one. I almost bought one last night at the ballpark because we've got the season tickets to season passes for Cedar Point, and just standing in line. And the problem with the ball cap is it gives you shade in the front, but when you're standing in those lines, the sun's beating down on you. And Jacob actually has one for marching band season. I think they recommended that the kids buy those just because it gives them more protection from the sun, and they fold up easy. You can stuff them in a pocket.
Yeah,
that's the problem we have with we had the ball caps at Cedar Point a couple weeks ago. It's like going on a ride. I'm shoving them in the pocket of my cargo shorts, trying to not have to put them in a bin. Because some of those rides they don't even have a place for your stuff. So
I really like the ones that they fold up on the side and they snap, so you look like Crocodile Dundee.
Nice.
I got one at the air show one year, but it's the material's so thick, so I would try to wear it in the summer, but it just made my head so hot. So I hadn't had one in a while. We were at Walmart one day, and there was one for on clearance for by the company Mission, who has been kind of promoting. I've seen some of their infomercials on TV as well. It is a nice moisture wicking, keeps your head cool type hat, and it stretches just enough to cover the tops of my ears too, so they're not potentially exposed. Even if you flip the flaps up, the top of the ears are still, because that's where my ears get the most sunburn. It's like right at the top part of it. So I got that for our honeymoon. We went down to Disney, and with that heat in June and July, or May, June, July,
down in Florida.
In Florida, like the sun's just beating on you all day, and my head stayed pretty cool. So it was kind of nice to find. Basically, I think it was the July 4th version. Those hats.
Okay.
Those hats that Major League Baseball put out for a lot of the teams, at least if you had the right colors, and the Guardians do.
Oh, the red and
white,
blue.
blue.
Yeah, that's a nice looking hat too.
Yeah, and so like that design you saw on the ball caps when they were playing on July 4th, that's what they put on this whatever hat you call it now. My head.
Bucket hat.
Bucket hat. Yeah, whatever they want to.
People, I think, can picture what we're talking about.
Yes, yeah. So that design's right on the front. So, but. Good time out of the game. We'll tell some more stories from last night and look ahead at the All-Star break, because we got a couple representatives in the All-Star game, and the Home Run Derby we have a representative. We'll talk about, could that impact the best player on the team and his ability to help guide this young squad and still be that top player in the lineup. We'll talk about that next. But on the other side of the break, we are going to be joined by Jim Wagner, one of the co-founders, owners of LPB Productions, but also the main crewman for Elmer Flick Days here in Bedford. Get a little story about Elmer Flick and what has been going on and what they plan to do moving forward with other Elmer Flick Days here in downtown Bedford. This is the Voice of the Land right on the Big Play Network.
Are you struggling to hire the right talent or maybe even find the right career? Vector Technical makes it easy. Since 1992, Vector has provided Ohio employers with a reliable process for hiring and have helped thousands of job seekers advance in their careers. Vector Technical is more than just a temp agency. We invest time to get to know each client and candidate personally. Vector places people in job opportunities that they are truly excited about. Interested in learning more? Visit our website at www.vectortechnicalinc.com to see a full list of our current job opportunities and to find out what Vector Technical can offer you.
Welcome back to downtown Bedford here in the square at Elmer Flick Days, Voice of the Land on remote this weekend. And yes, we're here on a Saturday, not on Sunday. And I am joined now by Jim Wagner, who I've got a chance to work with a lot with our CVC TV and LPV Productions, all the other things we've done. But you're the man putting on Elmer Flick Days. Just tell the people about kind of the stuff that's been going on throughout the weekend and what's still to come tonight.
Well, we started off last night. We showed the Sandlot and Field of Dreams, huge screen, 25-foot screen that was hanging up above the square, and then we started off this morning. We had some all-star games from the Western Reserve Fast Pitch Girls Softball League, and then at 1 o'clock we had a baseball reenactment down at Bedford Glens, and it was, I guess it was very well taken.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jim didn't get a chance to go
down.
He was so
busy to go there, too busy. But well, we had a barbershop quartet down there like they used to back in the 1800s, and so that's kind of cool. And then we're just waiting now for the Billy Donato concert, which will be starting about 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so everybody kind of, everybody kind of getting some food around downtown Bedford, things like that, and then we'll be coming back down for the concert. But these are Elmer Flick Days, and I saw the video that you kind of put together with some information from Bobby DiBiasio, of course, working with promotions and with the Guardians and Indians organization. We've had him on the show before, and he's always loving to talk about the history of Cleveland baseball. And I mean, we've talked about it on the show about how Jan and I got married at League Park, and to start to learn more, it's almost like more information kind of just right at the right time kind of coming out about who played there, what happened at League Park. And I believe today, back in 1941, Joe DiMaggio hit for the 56th straight game at League Park. I saw that tweeted out by them earlier today. But Elmer Flick definitely had an impact on the history of Cleveland baseball. Tell the people a little bit more about Elmer Flick and who he was.
Okay, well, Elmer was born in Bedford, and as he was getting older, but this happened right at the train station, which is right here. They were waiting to go to a game in Streetsboro, and they only had 8 guys. And so they looked into the crowd to try to find somebody who looked like they could play, and they picked Elmer Flick. He had no shoes on, had no uniform, and he went there and was considered the best player on the team. And he was like 15 years old, and he's playing with adults. So the next year when he was on some business for his dad, he was going to out of town and decided to stop by Youngstown, and he wanted to try out with Youngstown, and they had no idea. They go, well, you look like a ball player, but we don't know.
Right.
We never heard of you.
Right.
So they said, just keep an eye on your mailbox, and you'll get something from us. And sure enough, they invited him to come to spring training. He made the team, and then he played for Dayton the next year, and got the attention of the Philadelphia Phillies, and he wound up making the team his rookie year. He was sitting the bench, and their regular right fielder got injured. He had a bad back, and Elmer Flick came in and batted 300, threw a 302 his rookie year. Had a great year, and then the next year he did even better, and then his third year he hit 367. The only person that hit better than him was Jim Wagner. No relation. So then he was one of the most valuable players in the National League at that time, and that's when the American League was starting, and he had the opportunity to jump. First he went to the Philadelphia A's of the National League, but they didn't like him being there, and Napoleon Lajoie was supposed to go there too. And what happened was after he played 11 games for the A's, he got sent over to Cleveland, which was his hometown, which was great for him. And, his numbers went down a little bit. But it was also because at that time when the American League started, that's when they started throwing spitballs. Yeah. And, it was a lot harder to hit the ball then. And the 3-strike rule changed too. So there were a lot of things that happened that, obviously everybody's numbers started coming down. But he was still a good performer until the end of 2007, and then he had this mysterious stomach ailment that just basically ruined his career. He probably only batted 400 times in his last 3 years, and then he played 2 more years in the minors, and that was it. And he went to building houses in Bedford, and just he would race his sulkies up and down Broadway here. It was kind of cool, but I wasn't around for that, but.
But, I mean, just thinking about that story and hearing that story, someone that's a 15-year-old, just think about that in today's day and age, a 15-year-old in the stands because a team is short players. They need that 9th guy to bat in the lineup and being pulled out, and then that kind of gets eyes on him and information didn't travel like it does today either.
And one of the funny things was back in the early 1900s and late 1800s, some of these town teams didn't have a pitcher, so they would hire a pitcher for each game. And when they played the doubleheader that he went on the train trip for, the pitcher from the first game went up to the pitcher for the second game and said, "Watch out for the kid without a uniform on. He's the best guy on the team." So that's kind of that's interesting. Yeah. It's really cool.
I mean, and to be the best at such a young age, I mean, we've seen younger athletes kind of be put on that platform, and nowadays, I mean, what's so hard about it is the media attention and how information travels. Elmer, kind of maybe to his credit and being in that time frame, the message didn't get out there as fast, but it's still able to just go out there and play the game that he loved at that kind of level.
Yep.
Now, I know that we kind of got a chance to walk into the Bedford Historical Society just right across the way from us right now, and some great stuff in there. Some of the baseball cards, to see some of the original baseball cards. Is that exhibit going to be up there for a little bit for people to come check out, even after Elmer Flick Days?
It'll be up through the end of the baseball season, yes.
And some of those, How did you get? Did you get some of those, or did people kind of give those to you over
No,
time?
those were donated to the museum by.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, it's so crazy to kind of see the evolution of baseball cards and all of that kind of information. Why was it so important to you, though? Because we have the Elmer Flick statue here in the square, just over on the other side where the main stage is. Why was it so important to you to kind of help get that statue for Elmer Flick to have and to kind of put emphasis on him with these Elmer Flick Days to kind of shed light on someone else we don't talk about in Cleveland baseball lore?
All right. What really happened with the Flick deal was I was on the superintendent's roundtable committee for the Bedford City Schools. Marty Motzko was the superintendent at the time, and Central School, which is right behind us over here, was turning 100 years old, and they wanted some information on things that happened around 1902, 1901, and there was stuff like the first ice cream cone at at any kind of an event, and some other stuff like that. And then I started looking up Elmer Flick, and I noticed this guy had great stats, especially his third year in Philadelphia, and so I called the Baseball Hall of Fame and I ordered his everything that they had for Elmer Flick, and it showed up a couple days later, and it was probably about an inch thick. And I got it about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that next morning my wife came downstairs, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was still down there reading all the stuff about Elmer Flick. And then I went to Dan Posek, who was the mayor at the time, and Bob Reed, who was the city manager, and told him, it's like, we've got a Hall of Famer that lives here in Bedford. Why doesn't anybody know anything about it? And they're like, well, let's see what we can do about it. And, they threw around some ideas about putting up a plaque or something like that. And then Dan mentioned doing a statue, which I was all for that. But 9 years later, we finally got the statue up there. So it took a long time.
I muted myself there. So when was the statue actually dedicated?
In
2013.
Okay.
Which was the 50th anniversary of him being elected to the Hall of Fame.
And the Cleveland the organization was involved. The Indians, of course, at the time.
Bob DiBiasio was all over it. Bob's awesome.
Yeah. Just talk about maybe the event and stuff to dedicate it. Who they may have brought out here, and I believe wasn't that I saw in the video that was the same day as Jason Giambi's.
The day after.
The day after.
Yeah.
Okay, the day after Jason Giambi's big walk-off against the White Sox that you kind of always see in highlights. I mean, who came out here? What were those conversations like to get the organization involved in that kind of undertaking?
One thing I found out about baseball people is they love to help you. They love to get involved, and Bob was a big help. And at the dedication, the statue was all covered with a big blanket, and we had a crane out there. And Joe Charbonneau was here, Len Barker, and Mike Hargrove. And this entire square was packed with people. I don't think you could put any more people on the square. And it was kind of cool because, we were facing towards the restaurants over there, and right in front of the stage was Elmer Flick's family. There had to be 45, 50 people there that came in from all over the United States because everybody had forgotten about him.
Yeah. And,
this is, he retired in 1910. So for him to be, almost 100 years, over 100 years later, he's finally getting honored by his hometown. It had to be kind of like playing with Napoleon Lajoie, and he's getting all the attention, but I'm the one that lives here.
Yeah.
So it was really fun. It was a lot of fun.
And I think we forget about especially with a sport like baseball that's been around for so long, we forget about the true trailblazers of each sport, the ones that got the ball rolling for so many others to come after them. And I mean, that's why it's America's pastime. It's one of America's favorite sports, even though there's conversations about how to change it, how to modernize it. But all of the little elements that they played with back then are still going to be a part of the game. The reason why it's been difficult to update the game and modernize the game is because if you're going to play it, you got to play it with some of the same kind of aspects that Elmer Flick did.
Well, it's funny, and this is one of my favorite stories his grandson told me. He's like, back then, they had a couple baseballs. They didn't play with 6 dozen balls a game.
Like buckets and buckets and buckets.
And when this started off with these guys starting to throw spitballs, which was a great advantage for the pitchers, well, Elmer Flick and another teammate, when there were a lot of horses, there weren't many cars back then.
Yeah.
Well, they went out in the street and they collected some horse dung and rubbed it all over the ball. So when the guy was throwing a spitball, he was tasting the ball. So it's like, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's funny to kind of hear those stories, like the way that competitive advantages like that philosophy has even been around for so many generations. And I know you guys had a great event out here in Bedford, but only the first year, so not as many people knowing about it. You always got a home here at Voice of the Land because we're with LPV Productions, so maybe we kind of have to. But you always got a home here to do that, because I know you guys want to try to get it going again.
Right.
Next year, the Baseball Heritage Museum at League Park was here. That is a place that if you are a baseball fan, like, you have to get to League Park to go to the Baseball Heritage Museum. It's small. It's a quick walkthrough, but there is so much history just in that one little space.
Well, here's another interesting thing. When we originally did the statue, this was at the end of Dan Posek's term as mayor.
Mm-hmm.
So they scheduled the event without really talking to us. And so it was going to be on September 25th or something like that. And so I called the sculptor and I was like, is that statue going to be ready by then? And he's like, no. He goes, it's not going to be done for months because it's out in California or on the west coast. And I go, what can we do? And he said that we can turn it into a fiberglass.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so he made a fiberglass cast of it. We put that up on a different base because that base that's there is African something or other, and it's expensive, very expensive. So we had this little gray block that had Elmer Flick's name on it with a fiberglass statue, and that was there for the dedication. And then the next summer was when the actual statue wound up there with the African granite, and so it really looks nice.
Yeah, so definitely. It's quick drive. Up over on the east side, it's quick drive down south here to downtown Bedford. And be on the lookout for more information is coming out next summer. Everyone's always looking forward to. Once we get to the cold months, everybody's looking forward to, what's going to be outdoors in the summertime? What can I look forward to? This is such a great little, feels like a little community event that can have such a big impact and big outreach to a lot of people. So, Jim, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a little bit.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll make sure to make sure Elmer Flick's memory is definitely honored here on the Voice of the Land as well. So thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you.
That is Jim Wagner from LPV Productions and operator of and kind of the main crewman for Elmer Flick Days here in downtown Bedford, which will be becoming an annual event. So make sure you keep that on your calendars, looking out for that next summer. We're going to hit our second break of the afternoon. Little information on where you can get some of this Voice of the Land gear that I'm sporting today and more with, Always Positive Jay's face has made it to the gear, just not the commercial. Stay tuned right here to the Voice of the Land on the Big Play Network.
Whether you're looking to hire new talent or start a new career, Vector Technical has you covered. Vector Technical is a 28-year-old staffing firm that has helped thousands of job seekers advance in their career with reputable partners throughout northeastern Ohio. Vector Technical is more than just a temp agency. With an above-average hire-in rate of 1 in 4 candidates, Vector works hard to connect the right person with the right opportunity the first time. Vector Technical hires for skilled manufacturing and light industrial work and is sure to have a career that you've been looking for. To learn more, visit our website at www.vectortechnicalinc.com.
Get your gear at voiceoftheland.com/shop.
And welcome back to the Voice of the Land live out here in the square in downtown Bedford for Elmer Flick Days. They got a concert coming up here in just a little while at 7 p.m. But out here honoring and you just feel the essence of baseball here this weekend. And of course, Peter Peter Tellep, our producer extraordinaire, is with me this afternoon. Just myself and audio. Again, you don't get to see him. You only get to hear him. But just kind of like a perfect weekend for us. We got a chance to do kind of a show outing at the game last night. I know Jay was supposed to be there with us as well. Again, he is out on assignment working on his new house. But we got a chance to go with, Jacob was there and Jana was there, my wife. And we also got a chance to bring my cousin Ethan and one of his friends as well. So it was a great time out at the ballpark. And they got the win. They had to come back in that game. And now they are up 8-0 in the top of the fourth. Quantrill is pitching at Gem, only giving up 4 hits so far. And they are actually going to the bottom of the fourth as I look at my MLB app. So Guardians on top of the Tigers 8-0, looking to take the first 3 of this 4-game series against the Tigers. But, Peter, we kind of got to look ahead because this team's going to the All-Star break probably at the perfect time because it's a young team that looks just out of gas from trying to live up to the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, they had that really great road trip. Then they kind of faltered. It's good to see them, like, finding ways to win. We had a couple big games. Like last night, that was one of those where it really seemed like that was going to get away from them.
Yeah.
So it really just seemed like, man, they hit that strong start, and then it was just going to slip away. And it was great to see them, do some of the small ball things, not relying on the home runs, just some smart base running, smart plays, some excellent defensive plays, I think, too. I mean, there's that one catch, that leaping catch
from All-Star Andres Jimenez.
Yeah.
Yes,
that was amazing.
And that's the type of play that you expect an All-Star level player to make because those are those SportsCenter top 10 highlights that you see most of the time by the guys that are going to be playing in the Summer Classic, the Major League Baseball All-Star game coming up on Tuesday night. I believe it's out in L.A. this year. So they got a lot of events out there in L.A. kind of back to back. So you got the Home Run Derby on Monday, All-Star game Tuesday night. Wednesday night are the ESPYs, which are kind of like the Oscars of sports awards. And so there's going to be a lot going on in L.A., and, of course, that's where the limelight is. But we've got 3 players going out there. We just mentioned Jimenez, who people are saying maybe we got the better end of the deal than the Mets with trading Frankie Lindor. Or, sorry, he doesn't like to be called Frankie anymore. It's Francisco, which is still fun to say, but not as fun as Francisco. It's not as fun as when he was here and it was Frankie Lindor. Frankie's going to find his way. I think just the brighter lights took him a little bit longer just the type of person that Frankie was when he was here. Probably take him a little bit longer to get accustomed to it. But the Mets have been playing some pretty good baseball this season. But to see a guy like Andres Jimenez, who struggled last year when he came over, it was more Ahmed Rosario who took over that spot. That was maybe the main piece of that trade last year. Right now it's Jimenez, and he's making the most of it. You also have Emmanuel Clase, who comes in and just shuts things down when it's needed. And, of course, the main man, Jose Ramirez, is going to the All-Star game. He's also going to be in the Home Run Derby, Peter. There's been people that have said that the Home Run Derby kind of changes your swing, and you never want to see one of your players nowadays go into the Home Run Derby, especially when they're hot, because it can take them on a big tailspin coming out of the break. What are your thoughts on that? Do you hear that kind of argument? Do you buy into it at all?
I don't know. I don't know if I buy into it. The Home Run Derby, especially, I think is exciting. And I don't know. These guys are professionals. Let them play and let them have fun. I mean, so many things can happen. I don't know. I think it really should be up to the player. They know themselves better than pretty much anyone else. And I do say that, but I can think of someone that doesn't. So.
No names, please? Or is that where we're going right now?
As soon as I said that, I'm like, maybe that's not the best
way to do it. Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm just looking up the full lineup of the Home Run Derby because I know that Pete Alonso from the Mets is going to be back in it. He's trying to go for, I think, 3 in a row for the home run derby, because he won it. He won it when he was here, correct, in Cleveland, and then won it last year because there was no All-Star game in 2020 due to COVID. So he's won kind of back-to-back with a year in between. I believe his first one was 2019 when the All-Star game was here. Just looking at the other participants outside of Jose and Pete Alonso, looks like Kyle Schwarber, and they're doing this bracket type of thing now too. Have you seen the home run derby? Have you watched over the last couple of years? You've seen like the bracket?
I actually haven't.
It's like there's like rankings. Like you get like a 1 seed versus the 8 seed type of thing. So it's Kyle Schwarber taking on Albert Pujols because it's kind of like, it's a bracket. Winner moves on to the next round and on to the next round. So Schwarber will be taking on Albert Pujols. Those are, Schwarber, that's not a name you like to talk about when it comes to history of Cleveland baseball. But nice to see Albert Pujols. Probably going to be one of his last. If he hasn't already mentioned that he's thinking about retiring, we're getting down to the point of one of the last ones we'll see there. And so good to see him in there. Number 4, Juan Soto, who's been more talked about right now because of contract negotiations than anything else. He's the number 4 seed, and your very own Jose Ramirez will be the 5 seed.
Jose.
That's always a fun thing. There was something for Stephen Kwan when he was kind of like those first 6 games of the year. I don't know if I mentioned it on here, but it was kind of like the old Mighty Ducks chant of quack, quack. It was Kwan.
Oh,
Kwan,
okay.
Kwan. But, of course, once that kind of spotlight went to him, is hoping to be the savior of, again, a lot of young guys most likely going to be filling into the lineup throughout the year, which that's been the case through the first half of the year. A lot of emphasis on him to be that spark plug to still be a contending team, because you got Terry Francona here. You got the Detroit Tigers, who are bringing up a lot of young guys too. They're more in a rebuild mode. Somehow this organization still finds a way, probably because of Terry Francona, to be in the mix.
Well, I think you have to give credit to the front office too. They do a pretty great job. I mean, our farm team has been consistently, producing, quality Major League Baseball players.
And as much as it sucks to go into those rebuild modes where you're trading away your top pitchers, your top players for them prospects, boy, this organization has done a great job of pinpointing prospects that they didn't get a chance to draft into their organization, but know that they're going to be better for and better developed in our organization than the one that they were in before. So the organization then feels good about a quicker turnaround, as we're kind of seeing with this team. It just, the message from ownership versus front office and the roster that we end up seeing on day one, and as the season goes through, it's so confusing for fans to follow what this team's goals actually are. But the right people are in place to always put them in a good position to at least contend for a chance to be there. You always want a chance at the dance,
right?
Especially in baseball, because if you have the right pitching, if you're playing right at the end of the year, you never know what can happen. It's not always that best team for most of the year. Like the Yankees have been on an absolute tear all season long. It's not always that best team. It's who's playing the best, who's pitching the best. That seems to be the teams that.
Well,
that,
once you get into the
playoffs,
once you get into the playoffs, then it's, all bets are off, and it's really how healthy and how deep, and a lot of that too. The playoff time, they're able to expand the roster, so they can bring some more people up. So if you have a good quality farm team, and the thing that kind of sucks is when you hear about players that they run out of options with, because I always feel bad for those players where it's like they're just on the cusp of breaking it, and it's almost a catch-22 because you have such a good team and a deep roster that you just don't have a place where that player fits.
Yeah.
But again, going back to also with the front office, is you look at some there have been a number of trades that they've made where a lot of the fans are like, "Oh, this is terrible trade," and then you look back and you go, turns out that was a pretty good trade.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Paulus, one of the former hosts of the show, always likes, kind of likes to say now that he was right when we had our big, before Voiceland was this, and we were just in a small studio at Ohio Media School recording, and one of the first heated arguments we actually got in was him hinting at trying to trade Frankie Lindor before the season, or, it was like at a weird time to say it. He was right, like it was the right idea to trade him. Well, found the right trade partner and the right trade pieces to do that. So you always got to give a couple of years to see how that's going to amount. I would say that, I was also right because I don't think that they traded him exactly when he said they needed to, but, they waited to the right time. Both of us were right about that one. So
there you go. I think the key is that the Indians were right.
Yes.
So that's the key.
Yeah, you want the organizations to be right. You want the teams to be right. The common cliche, and it's a cliche on this show to say that cliches in sports are always right because that's why they get said all the time, because they always seem to come to fruition more often than not. A common cliche is that, I totally lost where I was going to go with that. But I'll think about it here in a minute. But I just wanted to go through just the remaining players here in the home run derby. So Pete Alonso of the Mets going for 3 straights against Ronald Acuna Jr. in the first round. And to round things out, the number 3 seed Corey Seager of the Texas Rangers taking on Julio Rodriguez, who has been having a breakout year with Seattle, who's won, I think, 12 games in a row. They've had to come back in a couple of them. There was a huge grand slam in yesterday's win. That's a team that no one's been talking about much, but out there in Seattle, they're just doing the little things as well, kind of bringing some younger guys in, some not so well-known guys, and kind of makes you think of Cleveland a little bit. But, hey, the Guardians are doing what they need to, and the young guys right now they're having a little bit of success, but it's also – you're going to have to do more. You're going to have to give more. Terry Francona is asking a lot of these young players. If you had to guess right now, this is technically our all-star break show, Peter. Percentage chance you give the Guardians to make the playoffs. I think we've mentioned if we think that they can still make it or not, but percentage chance in reality that the Guardians can make the playoffs.
Oh, I'd say they have at least an 80% chance of making the playoffs, if not higher.
Okay.
I think they really do have a good chance. And we talked earlier about, like, after 4th of July, we're going to kind of see where this team is. And they're just about 500. They're a little bit above. I think they're still finding their way.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me a little nervous is the All-Star break, because they seem to be on a really good path right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully after the break, they're going to continue on that and not fall off, because that has been, we've seen that with a lot of teams. They go really strong into the break, or they're doing really poorly going into the break, and on the other side of the break, it's almost like it's a different team.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that right now what we're seeing in the series against Detroit, if you want to give what the score is right now, I mean, it's
I've been looking at my phone for the home run derby, and I hadn't seen any notifications kind of drop down on the top of my iPhone here. But as I say that, it is now 10-0 Guardians in the bottom of the 4th. It is looks like
the 4th.
Yeah,
Jeez.
looks like Luke Maley playing catcher today. He's one for one today. He's up at the plates in a 1-2 count with 2 outs. In the bottom of the 4th, Josh Naylor hitting a home run. Looks like a solo shot to make it 9-0 here in the 4th. So they've gotten 2 runs here in the 4th, making it 10-0 over the Tigers. So well in control, and Quantrill kind of, like we said, maybe a bigger gap in the score line, not giving up those middle inning runs like Plesac and him have been kind of known for the last few starts for both of them. Maybe this kind of helps Quantrill settle in, not just settle in the game, but settle in back into what we saw dominant-wise earlier on in the season when they were making a better run. Hopefully this is kind of that spark plug for him going into the second half is he'll get a little bit of rest, just like the rest of the team. But we're going to take a little rest for about 45 seconds and give some more information from Vector Technical. We apologize if the commercials are not playing sound-wise the entire time. You can always go back on the audio version of the podcast. That is on Google, Spotify, Apple, your favorite podcast platform, so you can always get more information. If you need the right job, they'll get you the right job the first time. So stay tuned. One final segment here on the Voice of the Land on the Big Play Network.
Are you looking for a career in manufacturing? Vector Technical has you covered. Vector Technical is a 28-year-old staffing firm that is partnered with some of the biggest and the best companies throughout northeastern Ohio. The recruiters at Vector Technical will coach you through the entire job process and will help you land an opportunity that you are truly excited about. Vector does not add any additional fees and offers benefits as well as free online skills training through Penn Foster. To learn more, visit www.vectortechnicalinc.com and make sure to check out our job board to see a full list of our current opportunities and apply.
Welcome back one final time this Saturday afternoon edition of the Voice of the Land. As we are on remote, we are on the road here in downtown Bedford in the square in honor of Elmer Flick Days. I want to thank Jim Wagner again for coming on to tell a little bit of the story. If you missed it, make sure you go back to the audio or video replay version. Of course, on our Twitter at VTL_pod. Across all Big Play social media platforms, we also have a Facebook page at Voice of the Land and Big Play and Voice of the Land podcast, both on YouTube. You can catch the replays of it there to get a little bit more of the history of Elmer Flick and why Elmer Flick Days were set up here in Bedford, being from this area. And again, I kind of keep going. My mind keeps going back to that story about a 15-year-old. That's
insane.
Was
isn't
just
it?
in the stands, no uniform, no shoes, nothing like that, and becomes the best player in a doubleheader for the team.
Could you imagine that happening these days? I mean, it couldn't. It could happen. If you have anyone that's got that kind of talent, they're already all over social media. I mean, with how ubiquitous phones and information sharing has become, it kind of reminds me of the Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Doc Graham, right? Young kid, but he's like just doesn't he decides to become a doctor. He just isn't there. But yeah, that's a great thing. Elmer Flick. I mean, it's weird because I grew up in Solon, so right next to Bedford.
Yeah.
And until I met Jim, he was talking about doing the video, kind of like the story of Elmer Flick and stuff like that, and I'm like, who is that? Like, I have no idea. And we've come down here over the past couple of years because LPV does work with the city of Bedford, and it's funny because Jim does not own any part of LPV, but everyone in Bedford thinks that it's his company because
I was just keeping it going. I'm in Bedford, so I gotta mention it.
He seems to be the face of the company around here because he's very involved with the community.
Yeah.
But I will say they do their tree lighting in around Christmas time. If you haven't come down to downtown Bedford, you need to get down here because it is amazing. They do a really awesome job. We actually got to do a little drone footage too.
Oh, wow.
We did a live stream from here a couple years ago and actually went back and got some drone footage of the lights. And yeah, it's a great little community. There's a beautiful park down here with the historic buildings all around and great food very close by.
Yeah, and it just, as soon as you pull up, it just has that, because I come from a community that has that small community, kind of everybody knows everybody. Sometimes maybe some people in this area think that Bedford's a little bit bigger, maybe, but as soon as you pull in, like I haven't been down to Bedford as often. I've been here several times, at least for athletic games at Bedford High School and the stadium over there.
Right, and the schools are a combination of Bedford and Bedford Heights, so I think that it's a much bigger geographical area, for the school district. But yeah, because I actually for a year I rented a house in Bedford, not far from here, and it was great. I do remember. It's a funny story, real quick. I do remember sleeping on like a Saturday or Sunday morning. I think it was a Sunday morning, and all of a sudden I get woken up because there's a parade going past my house. And how about that? It was a pretty nice parade.
Yeah. But it's a great little community, and I'm sure as there's already chairs starting to be set up for the concert tonight as well. So the more eyes that get on this event, and hopefully making it an annual event, and kind of telling the story of Elmer Flick every single year, because you hear, like what Jim was saying, you hear the stories of Nap Lajoie, you hear the stories of all the players that have kind of come through Cleveland, but one of the more unique stories I've ever heard kind of gets thrown by the wayside, or not thrown by the wayside, but just overlooked.
Yeah.
And it's good to shed a light on that, to really understand where baseball has come from in this town. Yes, the baseball team professionally has gone by different names, and it took 106 years for a different name to be needed and to happen, but there were many other elements and years of Cleveland baseball that have added to the history of what Cleveland baseball has become today.
And we all love, the hometown guy, right? So
yes,
it's a great story, definitely.
Yes, there was some hometown guy that ended a streak here, or a drought of championships.
Right.
He
a couple years ago.
He played somewhat of a role in that, and people loved it because he was from here. So, but no, I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time. So.
Hometown hero is,
it's a big thing.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
And I mean, just in a small town like this, I mean, hometown heroes take on so many different forms too. I know that so many different communities have put up those throughout, from Memorial Day through Veterans Day, those banners to honor those that have been in service, whether they've lost their lives or are currently in service, and banners with pictures of them for their community. Hometown heroes just means so many different things, but in a sports town like Cleveland, if you're a hometown hero, your story should be known. And I'm glad to see, I'm glad I'm being educated this weekend, just like so many other people, of Elmer Flick. And it's been just a baseball day here on the Voice of the Land. I mean, after last night, it only serves us right after being at the game last night.
Well, one thing I want to say before we get out of here, too, is next year, when they do this, and you want to make sure that they have you get a chance to go over to the old time game.
Yes,
because the old time game is, the rules are all different, and they do kind of explain the rules to the spectators there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can catch the ball on one hop and stuff like that, and so there's just a lot of different things, and it's pretty interesting. It's actually a faster paced game than I expected it to be, so it's kind of neat. So definitely check that out if you get a chance next year.
Yeah, I definitely want to be out here for more of it, and even doing something similar to Movies in the Square again. That would be great. Before we get out of here, real quick, favorite baseball movie?
Ooh,
there's several of them, but
I know,
there's only a couple that people really focus on.
I think that my favorite baseball movie, it's a toss up depending on my mood. We always say one, and I always say two.
I know.
It's between.
I got to rephrase that every time I ask
Major
that.
League and Field of Dreams, because Field of Dreams is a very emotional movie. Major League, it's an emotional movie in a different way.
Different way, yeah.
So
I mean, it's it was kind of. I guess draft day never really caught up with that essence of Major League, but it still kind of made you feel the same way. Again, it's about the hometown. It's about Cleveland, so we're all gonna love it. For me, it's Sandlot, because that's a movie that
that is a great movie.
A movie that I grew up with, but also kind of helped teach. Kind of had elements to help you teach the history of the game, so it kind of helped build on what Grandpa always used to bring us up on and tell us stories of. But. Let us know at Voice of the Land, at VTL_pod on Twitter, at Kevin7, and at LP Productions. Let us know, what is your favorite baseball movie. We'll have those conversations throughout the week. This is my last show for a couple weeks. I will be on vacation, so Jay should be back next week with a special guest. We'll announce that later in the week. A little Buckeye themed. I know we're getting close to football season, and yes, Browns will still kind of play the biggest role in what we do, especially being the Big Play Browns post-game show here on the network on Sundays at 7. That's when you can usually catch us live, Sundays at 7 p.m. Audio and video recordings you can catch throughout the week. But, hey, still haven't gotten quite to training camp yet. Focus on some other elements, but still a little football preview possibly next week with our special guest. We have that name, but we'll give that to you during the week. Make sure to follow us at VTL_pod. But for Jim Wagner, For everyone here in downtown Bedford and at the Elmer Flick Days, and for our producer extraordinaire audio, better known as Peter Tellup, the true owner of LPV Productions, my name is Kevin Arnold, reminding all of you sports fans, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. We truly love you all 3,000 right here on the Voice of the Land. And as our great late friend always used to say, Mike Allen always used to tell us, live life all gas, no brakes. We'll see you next week. Jay, we'll see you next week right here on the Big Play Network with the Voice of the Land.